So what is a difference maker anyway? In this video, I'll tell you exactly what a difference maker is. A lot of people say to me, Kirby, what does it mean? You know, you talk about this thing of being a difference maker, you got hashtag difference maker, you wear the t-shirt with difference maker written on it. But what does that even mean? And so I wanted to spend a moment reflecting on what I think are the core sort of values or beliefs that make somebody a difference maker, that make you a difference maker. You may or may not agree with all of these, of course, and that's completely okay. But you know what? I feel like for the most part, the people that I speak to who really are difference makers, they really get this and they really exemplify this within their own life and within their own expert business as well. So the first thing for me that makes someone a difference maker is that they consistently show up and lead with value. And what does that mean? Well, that means that if you look through the social media posts of a difference maker, if you look through their YouTube channel, if you go through their emails that they send out, it's very rare that you see hardcore closing. It's very rare that you see them really talking about products and services. There's lots and lots of value. There's lots and lots of good value. It's not just basic sort of average stuff that they're sharing. It is deep content that provides benefit to the end user. That's really a key component. So you'll know for me, I've been pumping these videos out. I do at least one video a week that is educational to some degree and helps to answer some of the questions that you might have as an expert trying to build your own expert business based on the experiences that I've had, but also based on the experiences of other people that I interact with every day, and all the things that I've learned building my own business as well over the last 4 years or so. So that's really the first thing. And you'll notice that if you look through any expert's material, there's tons of good stuff without even ever having to buy anything. So I can name a few people off the top of my head. Brendan Bouchard's one of them. You know, he, for years, has given lots and lots of value on his YouTube channel and through his other materials. Frank Kern is another one of them who will give tons of value. Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, kind of got that, like, I was in between saying Gary V and Gary Vaynerchuk at once there. You kind of noticed that weird mistake. Anyway, sorry, Gary. Gary Vaynerchuk obviously goes without saying that he is one of the best in the world at doing this, at delivering value to his audience. So that's the first real quality that I see in a difference maker. The second thing that I see is that difference makers always want to give people support and give people the right next step. Now, what does that mean? Again, vague on its own, but if you think about this in the context of how it works, difference makers are always answering the questions on social media. They're engaging. They're showing up still regardless of how big they get, and they're always providing people with answers to their problems and the next step towards the desired outcome that they want. That is, again, a critical thing that we see from all of the players. And I hope that you see that from me too, that I aim to give value in every interaction that I have with you. Number three, and this was a big one for me to learn, you know, if I'm being honest, as I built my business, I was really big on asking for feedback from clients. And sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it really, really sucks to hear the truth of how you haven't delivered, or, you know, whether you haven't, you know, got the result that the client wanted. That's sometimes not nice to hear. But difference makers take that on board because that is how we grow. And so if you are currently, you know, asking yourself, how can I do more? How can I make a bigger difference? Start there. Start by asking the people around you what their feedback is. Start by asking your clients, what could I improve? How would you score the time that we have together? You know, if you have coaching sessions or if you're training teams, if you're doing workshops or events, be sure to get a feedback score and be sure to look to improve that score as you progress week by week, month by month, year by year, however you want to measure that. That is one of our critical measures in our business, is our net promoter score, is the score that people give us when I teach or when I train or when I coach. We want to make sure that we're consistently delivering at a level that is at an 8 or above out of 10. So that is a pretty high standard that we set for ourselves. The reason we've done that is because we know that if we consistently deliver at that level, we will be leaving people in a really good space and we will be adding value to their lives. And that, again, is part of the difference maker makeup. So that's number 3. Number 4, difference makers always go before they're ready. And let me just tell you a little story to illustrate this point. I had a catch up with a client that I had. I worked with his team maybe 4 years ago. Lovely guy. Got a lot of respect for him. Very, very well regarded within his own industry. And so we caught up for a bite to eat. And he said to me, Kirby, I'm curious to know how you've managed to build your business so rapidly, essentially. You know, he saw me pretty much at the start of my business 4 and a bit years ago, where he would have been one of the first handful of clients that I ever had. And he said to me, you know, Kirby, I'd love to do something like you, but it would take me too long. And I sat back in my chair and I said, it would only take you a long time if you're doing it for you. Because when you're acting for someone else, you get going. When it's about someone else you want to serve, it doesn't have to be perfect. You have to get in the game. Because if someone was sitting on the side of the road with their leg hanging off and you had a Band-Aid, that serves the purpose of giving them some relief. You might not be a surgeon with a scalpel and an operating theatre right next to them, but you've got enough to keep them moving forward. You've got enough to protect, you've got enough to move them towards where they want to be. And so when I mentioned that to him, and I said to him, you know, you just go before you're ready. And he said, but what do you mean? It's so contradictory to what people teach in business school. You know, in business school, we're taught to protect the brand and look after the website and make sure everything looks polished and shiny and blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, that's all true, but there's time for that. You know, there's a time to get your brand on track. There's a time to make sure your business card looks nice. But the time to help people is now. In fact, the time to help people is yesterday. But if you didn't do it yesterday, then the time to do it is right now. And so that's a big thing that I observe. And that's the way that I attempt to lead in my business, is by going before I'm ready. And when it feels uncomfortable, that's go time. You know, you got to get in the game, even if it doesn't feel great, even if it doesn't feel like, you know, everything's lined up and perfectly in a row. Number 5 is that if I don't believe I can do it, then I ask, what if I could? That's really a mainstay. You know, Brendan Burchard, who talks about this whole concept of trusting in your ability to figure it out. And I think that's really pertinent to people who want to make a difference. They are very often scared. I mean, I wake up a lot of days scared to do videos like this and scared to show myself more and more. But equally, it's easy to overcome the fear when you face it. And it's easier again when you overcome that fear by helping other people. Because when it's about someone else, it's not about you anymore. Everything else just melts away. So, you know, I think one of the biggest things is that even if I don't believe that I can do something, even if I don't yet have the confidence to do something, one thing I never doubt is my ability to do something. And that is a really important distinction that I see in all people who want to make a difference to other people's lives in some way, is that they know they can because they feel it here. And they know they just want to make a difference in some way. And that drive, that internal drive here, beats anything that goes on up here once you get out of your own way. And I know it sounds blasé to say that, and I'm sure there's a billion books out there written about mindset and how you can overcome your beliefs. But I tell you what, the easiest way to overcome the belief that you can't do it is to have something worth fighting for, to be making a difference in a way that means something to you, whatever that looks like for you. And the final thing, and the most important one, is that difference makers always want to leave people better than they found them. So in every interaction, whether that's just a phone call, whether it's jumping into a lift with somebody, whether it's on an actual sales conversation, whether it's a client, whether it's someone who's inquiring about a product or a service, they always still want to add that value, and they always want to know that they've made a difference to that person. And for me, that's critical. I mean, that's printed on our goodie bags that we give out at our events. It's written in my book, is that, you know, my number one value outside of everything else, if I don't believe in myself for a moment, if I don't read a book that morning, if I don't have the perfect morning routine that everyone talks about, which by the way, I don't, because I've got kids, and, you know, if you've got kids, you'll understand. You know, I'm not always the best husband. I'm not always the best father. I'm not always kind to myself. I don't always go to the gym and look after my health. Sometimes I eat chocolate. In fact, very often I eat chocolate. But when all of that's not the way I want it to be, when it's not perfect, the one mainstay for a difference maker, even if, if the poo is hitting the fan, I was trying to think of a nicer way to say that, but there's really no nice way to say it. When things aren't going the way you expect, you still can control how you make people feel. That's one thing difference makers know. That regardless of what you feel, it's not, it's still, you can be having the worst day in the world, but does that mean you need to be mean to other people? Does that mean you need to allow that energy to bleed out into other people? I'm sure you'll agree that as a difference maker, it doesn't. It is important for you to interact as best as you possibly can with other people. And wherever possible, leave people better than you found them. So for me, that's really what makes me a difference maker. And if you are resonating with those points, then you're a difference maker too. But you probably already knew that because you feel it here, right? So that is my answer to the question, Kirby, what is a difference maker? If you've enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time.